So I'm not here to say that you should stop using everything else, throw it out the window, and from now on only use gedit. That's not what I'm trying to say. I do think though that many people aren't aware of what gedit brings to the table, and it can be a viable option, quite a good one actually. So the greatest selling point of gedit is that it is lightweight, and if you're using a GNOME desktop, you probably already have it installed on your computer. To get started, all you have to do is just type text in your start menu, and the first option is probably going to be gedit. So in this video, I want to try and use gedit for programming and see how it functions as a code editor. First, we should probably create a folder on the computer to have all our files in one place. As an example, I'll be using Python, so I'm going to call this folder Python Workspace. So the first nice thing about gedit is that it supports multiple tabs. So I can always click here and I get additional tabs. Let's create two Python scripts in two different tabs. And now let's save them in the Python Workspace folder. And notice that as soon as I save the files with a py extension, I got highlighting for the Python keywords. So a nice feature we can use is opening the side panel. And to do that, I'm going to go View and check the box for side panel. And as you can see, I got this panel over here where all of the open files are listed. This can be quite useful, as I can see all of the files that I have open in a concise fashion, and I can switch between them easily. So if I click here, this file is opened, and if I click here, this file is opened. We also have a keyboard shortcut. So Alt-2 will open this file, and Alt-1 will open this one. And the file we switch to is shown here in the main display, and it is also highlighted in the side panel. But what if we want the side panel to show all of the files in our workspace, not only the ones that are currently open? No problem. All we need to do is click here where it says Documents and change the display to File Browser. Here I'm going to open my workspace folder, and now I can see all of the files in my workspace. So for example, if I close this one, I can choose it from the file browser and double click on it, and it immediately opens in the main display. But what if you only want the files in your workspace to be shown, not all of the files in the file system? It can be done as well. All we need to do is right click over here and choose Set Root to Active Document. What this is going to do is only show the files in the folder that contains the active document. So let's try it. And now we only see the two files in our workspace. We can click here, by the way, and you can see that our workspace folder was added to this list over here. Once we have this display of the file browser, we can easily create new files and folder within our workspace. So right click here, and I can create new folders and new files. Now at this point you're probably annoyed. How can you expect me to use gedit as a text editor when it has this white background? Luckily it can easily be changed. All we need to do is click here on Settings, and under Preferences, we're going to choose Fonts and Colors. And as you can see, we have a lot of options, and we can easily choose the one we like the best, and it will completely change the way it looks. I'm going to go with Tango, and please don't hate me for using a bright background. Now everything we saw until now comes with gedit out the box, but the real power of gedit comes with the gedit plugins. So let's go ahead and install gedit plugins. And as you can see, it's not a big download, only about 14 megabytes. Great, so we're done with the installation. Let's see what we can do with these plugins. So the first plugin I want to talk about is the one that will allow us to change the size of the font. So let's open the Settings, Preferences, and under Plugins, I'm going to look for the Text Size plugin. And here it is, let's enable it. And now we can use Ctrl and the mouse wheel to change the font size. That's better. notice that this setting is per file. So here we still have the small font, which means that you can have different files with different font sizes. Another cool plugin is the snippets plugin. So let's go ahead and enable it. And these snippets are per language. So since we're in Python, I can write something like while. And then when I hit tab, it auto-completes it for me, and I can write my condition right away. Once I'm done with that, I hit tab again, and I can keep writing my code. I can also use the for snippet. So for, and then tab, and I can write something instead of I, let's say j, and then tab, and I can replace x range with anything I want, and then tab again, and I can write something here, and then tab once again, and I can keep writing my code. The nice thing about snippets is that you can write your own. So if we open the settings again, we can manage snippets. And as we said, it's per language. It doesn't have Python 3, but it does have Python 2, and it works for both of them. So let's try to add a snippet for Python. I'm going to click on the plus icon, and let's name our snippet example snippet. And here I can write anything I want. And here we need to type in a tab trigger, which is what we need to write to trigger the snippet. And that's it. Let's close the snippet manager. And all I need to do now is write the tab trigger for my snippet, then hit tab. And it's immediately replaced with my snippet. Now, by default, gedit doesn't auto-close brackets. So I can write any type of bracket and it won't auto-close it. But fear not, as it can be easily fixed. All we need to do is enable the bracket completion plugin. And now if we do the same thing and try to open any kind of brackets, it automatically auto-closes them. And it works for all three types of brackets. Another plugin that may be useful for you, especially if you're into design work or CSS, is the color picker plugin. And what this plugin allows us to do is to open a color picker. So under Tools, I'm going to pick color. And there is a long list of predefined colors. And we can also choose our own custom color over here. And we can choose the hue, and then the saturation and luminance. Once I'm happy with the color, I click on Select, and its color code is added to my code. Another thing you might look for is the ability to easily comment or uncomment blocks of code. And to do that, we're going to use the comment plugin. And here it is, code comment. And now I can simply select the lines I want, and then right-click and choose Comment Code. And this code is going to be marked as a comment. And if I want to remove the comment, I right-click again and uncomment code. Another cool feature is the ability to find in files. So let's enable the Find in Files plugin. And now we can find in files. And what this allows us to do is to look for text in a folder. So gedit will look for the text we type in all of the files within this folder. So it usually makes a lot of sense to choose our workspace as the folder. And here I'm going to type in the text that I want to look for. So as an example, let's look for print. And as you can see, it shows all of the files that contain the text and all of the hits within these files. And we can double click on any of them, and it will lead us directly to the appearance of this text within this file. Another thing is the embedded terminal, which can be extremely useful. So let's enable it. and it can now be found in the bottom panel over here. And now we have a full-blown Linux terminal within gedit. So let's change folder to our workspace. And if we list the files, we can see both of our Python scripts. Let's try to run one of them. And it runs as expected. And whenever you're writing your code in the main display over here, you can always switch to the terminal by the F6 keyboard shortcut, which will take you directly to the terminal. So these are some of the cool features that are baked into gedit. But it's not all it has to offer, it has a lot more. So the next time you need to choose a text editor, keep gedit in mind.